Okay, so we got Video Games 2004 tier maker for this week's Members First video. And for everybody else, it's going to be available Friday at 1 p.m. Central Time, as usual. So we're going to be taking a look at some of the games here. These are all the games. I've already filled in the ones that I never played, so I don't really have to discuss those. But I will kind of like have some brief thoughts about the other ones, and we'll see where we rank them, of course. A lot of really top tier games, some maybe not quite as much, but we're going to go ahead and get right into it here. We're starting off pretty strong, I would say. Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. This was originally an Xbox exclusive, I believe, or it might have been Xbox and PC. I don't know for sure, but I know it was, at least on the consoles, only on Xbox. Basically, it kind of like has like some of the lore and things like that of the movie. I think it's supposed to take place before Pitch Black, if I remember right, or I don't know. I forget exactly how it goes. But Riddick is of course imprisoned and he breaks out, and like it's got a really cool fighting system. It's all in first person, similar to something like Breakdown, but not quite exactly the same, but has some similarities. Top-notch graphics for the original Xbox for the time. This was a really good game, and I enjoyed it quite a lot. I don't know if I'd put it at the very top ranking here, but I think it definitely deserves a B tier. It's definitely like an 8 out of 10 style game, I think. The next one probably isn't going to be a shocker to people. This game right here, Half-Life 2. Half-Life 2 was arguably, for some people at least, the best game of 2004. There's several games that are on this list that could be somebody's best game of 2004 because they had a lot of really good games that year. But this is definitely going to be one of those games, certainly for more of the PC centric crowd. The first Half-Life game was amazing, obviously, and this took it to a whole new level with the new Source engine. Absolutely amazing graphics. The physics of the game was really bumped up. A lot of really cool weapons. There was just so much going on with Half-Life 2, and it definitely was a game that kind of raised the bar for first-person shooters. I can't think of any rank below an A here that it would be justified giving, honestly. It definitely is very deserving of the top rank. Okay, now we've got Drive 3er, aka Driver 3. So, of course, the original Driver games, very popular on the original PlayStation. And then, of course, we had a little game called Grand Theft Auto 3 came out and kind of like took the world by storm, and everybody forgot about Driver because, like, that was like the old shit. GTA is a new shit now. They decide to go back to the drawing board and kind of try to imitate GTA and do their own thing at the same time. It had a lot of interesting ideas, and at least from what I remember, the graphics were better than GTA. Um, it seemed like the environments were bigger as well, but there was like a weird clunkiness to the control scheme. I'm talking about for back then, by the way, so it probably would feel really clunky by modern standards. And it had a lot of issues. There was definitely some frame rate drops and things like that. It wasn't like a bad game, but it definitely had a lot of issues. I think that one's probably a solid D, honestly. Like it's passable, I guess, if you're just wanting to play something, but it's not like a awesome experience at the same time. Okay, so now we've got Obscure. This is a survival horror game that it's so weird because this game was like kind of behind the times and yet ahead of the times at the same time. Let me explain. So, this particular game had fixed camera perspectives, and this was at a time when games were pushing away from that. You had like the Silent Hill games, of course, for example, that they used a little bit of that mechanic, but they also had some behind the character views. And then, of course, as we know, Resident Evil 4 really changed the game which came out the following year, of course. It came out literally the first month of 2005. So this game had those fixed camera perspectives, had some weird kind of like tank controls, a little bit clunky gameplay. But what was really cool about this game is, well, there's a couple things that were really cool about it. One, it had 2-player co-op. So you can actually do 2 players on the same console. I'm not aware of any other game of this style that had that. So that was actually really fun. And then you also had the mechanic of, if a character died, they didn't come back. Like the game continued. You would continue on with other characters potentially as long as you had enough characters in your lineup. I think you had like 6 characters total or something like that, if I remember right. But the game story would continue, and it would like the ending would kind of be a little bit different depending on how many characters survived and everything like that. So that was a pretty cool idea. I would probably put this maybe as a C for now. It might be possibly bumped up to a B depending on how we divulge things, because it had some clunkiness, but it had some really cool ideas too. Okay, so now we've got Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2: The Sith Lords. This game came out like basically at the very tail end of 2004. So fun story. There was a former friend of mine, and they're not former friend because of the story that would happen later on. But there was a former friend of mine. I had played through this game. I beat the game. Probably took me about roughly a month or so after the game came out, and he wanted to borrow it. And he made zero mention of this, but shortly after he borrowed it, he moved to Mexico with his Xbox, and he was in Mexico for like close to 2 years or something like that. And he didn't have his Xbox or nothing when he came back, in town. So like my copy of the game, unless it left Mexico, is still there. So go figure. So I never got the chance to replay this game after the original time I played it on the original Xbox back in the day when I got it at launch, because I was a huge fan of the original KOTOR, obviously. So that was like obviously a must play for me. Definitely a really good game. I'm tempted to put it in the A tier, but it did have some issues. It definitely wasn't as smooth of an experience as the original KOTOR, even though it did have some improvements to the gameplay. So I think B would probably be appropriate for now. We'll see. Mario versus Donkey Kong. This was, of course, on the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance is the first handheld game system I played. I didn't play a lot of handheld games at the time, but I did play Game Boy Advance. And I thought this was a pretty fun little idea. Very interesting puzzles, and a lot of interesting variety with the stages and things like that. Of course, it was a pretty fun game. Nothing groundbreaking or anything like that, but I enjoyed my time with it. I'd probably put this as a C tier game. I'm thinking maybe a B. We'll see, but I think C is probably pretty appropriate. So we got Silent Hill 4: The Room. Now this is one I didn't actually play until recently. I picked this up at GOG. I don't know why these games are like not in the proper order or nothing like that, but whatever. It's more Silent Hill, of course. This game was really weird though. It had like this weird mechanic where, you're technically trapped in a bedroom, and then you get like teleported to all these weird locations and stuff like that. And I don't know, it just doesn't really hit the same as like Silent Hill 2 or 3. It had some pretty cool ideas, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Silent Hill 4. I don't know where to put it. I don't know if I want to put it as a C or a D, because it's not as good as like Obscure. It's better than Driver. We'll put it ahead of Driver and D, I think. But maybe it'll get bumped up to a C. We'll see about that. Now we've got Doom 3. Okay, Doom 3 was pretty controversial for the time. Now, if you play Doom 3 nowadays, they made changes from how the game originally was. And, originally with this particular game, you had to make a choice between using your flashlight or using your gun. That's obviously nothing you have to worry about with the newer versions of the game. I was also very demanding on computers for the time. I actually had to buy a new graphics card because of this game, because it said in the system requirements it supported like certain things, and my graphics card wasn't that limit, but that was actually technically a misprint, and so it did not work on my computer. So I just got like the cheapest graphics card that I can get away with to run this game. So it wasn't running at the best settings or nothing like that, but it did still look pretty good. Obviously, it was probably still the best looking game I've seen on my computer at that time. And the gameplay is really cool. I love the atmosphere of Doom 3. Obviously, very different from the classic games. It was a rock solid game for sure. I'm tempted to put it in the A tier, but I don't think it quite qualifies as a. Actually, I never played Twin Snakes. I need to move that over. We're gonna put that in the B tier also. I think. Well, yeah, we'll put it ahead of Riddick on that one. Okay, now Far Cry. The original Far Cry games, pretty different from the Far Cry games of today. As a matter of fact, this one is the most different. This one doesn't really have a lot to do with the other Far Cry games at all, outside of the tropical, beautiful environment. Which this actually shares a lot in common with Far Cry 3 on that. Of course, other than the graphical differences, of course, but it's actually quite different. This was actually made by the Crytek. You might have heard of Crytek. They made a little game called Crisis, which was a game that absolutely demolished computers because it was so graphically advanced for that time. This was the game before that, Far Cry. This was the original game. And, this game was actually very well optimized, visually stunning, a lot of fun. The world was a blast to explore, very open. But it didn't have like the missions and all that good stuff like the later games did. This was more linear in the progression of that, but it was still like a blast. Absolutely a lot of fun with the original Far Cry game. I'm really tempted to give that one A, but I just don't think it's going to quite cut it. I'd probably put it around the same as like Doom 3. It's about the same level of quality. It's a really good game. Okay, Gran Turismo 4. So Gran Turismo, obviously one of the premier racing games, and you can't go wrong with Gran Turismo 4. This game definitely pushed the PlayStation 2 to its limits. This game was 1080i resolution at a time when most games on the PlayStation were like maybe 480p tops. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but if you can use like a cable to link up multiple PlayStation 2 consoles with multiple copies of the game with multiple monitors, and you can have it run like 3 different screens, and like a cockpit view. Absolutely amazing. The amount of cars and everything like that, absolutely mind blowing. How much content they put in the game. And of course, it was still the great gameplay you expect. This one has to be an A. It really does. Probably the best racing game of that year, although some might prefer a different game, which we're going to get to very shortly. Okay, we got WarioWare Touched. This was on the Nintendo DS. I didn't have the DS originally. I got that like a little bit later whenever they introduced the DS Lite. But I did play WarioWare Touched. I was a fan of the WarioWare games on like the GameCube and Game Boy Advance. But I thought this is where it really took off for me as far as WarioWare. I think with the Nintendo DS in particular, with using the touchscreen for the mini games and stuff like that, I thought that was a really cool idea. And this probably, out of the WarioWare games that I've played, I haven't played all of them, but out of the ones I've played, this one probably is the best one. I had a lot of fun with it. I think this one's a very solid B for sure. Okay, Halo 2. Whew. Jeez. Need I say more? Halo 2. One of the most hyped video games of all time. Like this was a actual event. Like, if you were alive in 2004 and you were involved with video games at all and you aren't so young that you don't really remember stuff from 2004, you remember Halo 2. You remember it. Either you know, you were one of the people that got the game at launch, or you were with somebody that got the game at launch and you went over to their place to play split screen multiplayer, or you worked at a midnight event for this game. You were, if you were a serious gamer in 2004, you were involved with Halo 2 in some fashion or other, or at the very least, you knew somebody that was, like it was basically like a 1 degrees of separation. Like either you were directly involved with this game in some way, or you knew you had like a good friend or a family member that was involved with this game in some way. It was such a massive and monumental event. And I it was such a epic experience. The game itself is fantastic, of course, but it does have a few issues. It does have a few issues, but it definitely was an improvement overall from the first game. Adding the online multiplayer was such a huge deal for Xbox Live and stuff like that because the first game didn't support that. And I was surprised Microsoft didn't do like a reissue of the original Halo with like Xbox Live support so they could basically resell the game. And but yeah, this was definitely a game that one of the most hyped games of all time. Did it deliver on that hype? It probably depends on who you ask, but I mean, this one is probably going to be an A for me. Probably. Not necessarily because of the game itself. Like if I was to judge it solely on just the game, it probably would be a B, but just the experience that I had from playing Halo 2 from launch and from period shortly after, I mean, that's something that cannot be replicated. It's something that's ingrained in my head at this point. So it kind of earns that A spot based on that. Okay, we got Dragon Quest 8. Dragon Quest 8. This was the first one called Quest instead of Warrior because all the games in this series were Dragon Warrior before that. And then I guess Square Enix eventually, they had the ability to or just decided to start calling it Dragon Quest, keeping the name the same for all of the regions that it released in. And, it was a huge advancement for that franchise because you look at the original Dragon Quest 7 on the PlayStation 1, you compare it to 8, it's like night and day in terms of like the visual presentation, in terms of like the music, in terms of like all that stuff, like it was such a huge advancement. Really good RPG. I never finished it. Not like the biggest Dragon Quest fan personally. They're a little grind heavy for my taste, but I did enjoy Dragon Quest 8 a lot when I played it. I think it's definitely a B title. Okay, Burnout 3 Takedown. Okay. Oh, I forgot about that one. So I guess there's two other racing games we're going to be talking about here. Um, there's a third one as well. I don't think it's going to rank as quite as high, but we'll get to that. So yeah, Burnout 3 Takedown. This is some people's favorite Burnout game. Definitely an amazing game. I remember playing this on the PlayStation 2 over my friends. I didn't have this one personally, but it was just such a blast. Very cool concept, and you didn't have to do races. You could just do like the crash mode and just try to make like the best crashes possible. And that was actually really cool to do in like a multiplayer setting because like normally like when you're doing that pass the controller thing, it's like, oh, you're going to watch somebody race for like 5 or 10 minutes or you're just going to wait your turn. But that you could play a lot more quick and it's a lot more of a party experience in that way. This was awesome for sure. I don't know. It's tough though. I'll probably have to give this one a B also. There's a lot of them I would rank in the B tier, of course. Okay. That brings us to Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow. Ooh. Ooh. Oh my God. If it was just the game itself, like the regular gameplay, I probably would put it at a C. I mean, it's great. I like Splinter Cell a lot. It's probably my favorite stealth franchise, honestly. But what really bumps this up, honestly, is the multiplayer mode, which you had to play either through Xbox Live or you could play through LAN, where you can link the Xboxes together. That's actually how we played it. And this was like such a cool idea. I wish there was more games like this because unlike a lot of multiplayer games of that era, this was actually asynchronous where the players weren't playing the exact same roles. They were playing different roles. You had the spies, of course, which would play like the normal, Splinter Cell, third person, sneaking around, all that good stuff. And then you had the mercenaries, which played more like a first person shooter. That's the other faction. They're the ones hunting down the spies. So it offered a completely different playing experience for both sides. And that was such a really cool idea. And it had like a lot of tension, a lot of cool vibes. This was a really cool game to play. And, so I mean, I'd almost put it at A tier, but it's not quite that good. It is a little dated nowadays, but it was such a blast. I'm probably going to give it a B just because of that added multiplayer. It was actually really fun. Okay, we got The Sims 2. So I was a huge fan of the original Sims. The Sims 2, of course, bought several of the expansions. I mean, it was such an upgrade over the original Sims, getting that full 3D perspective, all of the mod support and things like that you could take advantage of. Um, there was just so much going on. I mean, you're obviously familiar with The Sims if you keep up with video games, and this was, in my opinion, for me at least, it was the peak of the franchise because, like, with Sims 3 and Sims 4, they made some various changes. Not a huge fan of those. But this was back when EA was still putting out pretty good games for the most part, like they were still pretty solid. Um, and this one's definitely gonna be. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I almost want to put it on the A category. I think I might. I actually spent a crap ton of time playing The Sims 2. It was actually a legit like vibe for sure. Okay, now we got Need for Speed Underground 2. Okay. This was the racing game I was originally alluding to, but I didn't notice Burnout 3 obviously, but this was such a blast as well. I mean, this is for a lot of people the best Need for Speed game. A lot of people go between this or the first most wanted game. It seems like those are two of like the top ones that get mentioned off for very good reason. Underground 2 was definitely a game of that time because this came out after like the Fast and the Furious movies and all that, and the car culture around like people souping up Honda Civics and everything like that. This was that time period and definitely has that experience. Like this game, if you want to know what like the year 2004 was like without having to read on the internet or anything like that, this is probably the game to play. This is 2004 in a nutshell. It's a very era appropriate game and it's a lot of fun. Definitely for sure. Um, I mean, it's just a rock solid game. They don't make them like they used to for sure. I'm going to give this one a pretty high B, I think. I enjoyed it quite a lot. Okay. Got Mario Party 6. I had this on the GameCube, of course. This was a pretty weird Mario Party game because it came bundled with a microphone that you can plug into the GameCube port. I think there was only a handful of games that supported it. It was used for like various mini games and stuff like that. Honestly, it didn't work all that great. It was kind of a lame gimmick, but I mean, it was fine. The mini games themselves are pretty good. It's always fun to play the Mario Party games, but some are definitely better than others. This one's definitely more on the C tier range, I think. Okay. I'm not seeing any other Nintendo published titles on here. I guess Nintendo didn't have a strong year, 2004. Although, oh no, I see. I've actually have several that have played. Metroid Prime 2 is actually probably pretty solid, but I never played Metroid Prime 2. Yeah, I guess I didn't play a lot of Nintendo. I wasn't huge on the GameCube at that time. Okay, Serious Sam. Serious Sam, I enjoyed the first game. This one, I believe, is the second encounter. So that came out a little bit later, of course. Pretty much more the same. Really fun action, shooting, hordes of enemies. And, the Serious Sam engine was really interesting for the time. Like it supported a lot of action, very resource, like it wasn't very intensive at all. So it would run like even on my meager computer and it looked pretty good and great frame rates, a lot of enemies on screen, a lot of cool weapons, It is kind of basic on the terms of like the level design and mechanics and stuff like that, but I enjoy Serious Sam quite a bit. But I'd probably say it's probably going to be around the C tier range. Okay, Alien Hominid. Now, this one's kind of an unusual one because I technically played the HD game. I didn't play the original, but I decided I'll go ahead and throw that in there because Alien Hominid is a lot of fun. This was a blast. I love these Newgrounds style games. And actually one of my most popular videos from back in the day on this YouTube channel, I did a Let's Play series of Alien Hominid HD on the Xbox 360. So you could tell I enjoyed the game a lot, because I had already beat the game before, but I decided to play through it, on the 360. Again, for the Let's Play series. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And it's definitely a B tier for sure. We'll put it about right there, I guess. Perfect. Okay. We got Tekken 5. Tekken 5 was a major improvement, in my opinion, from Tekken 4. Tekken 4 had some missteps. Wasn't quite as good as like Tekken 3 or Tekken Tag Tournament. Tekken 5 really brought things back to the fold. Definitely the best one the PlayStation 2 had. I wasn't huge into fighting games, but I did appreciate my time with Tekken 5. I thought it was a really fun game. And a lot of characters too, like it was great to kind of get that lineup boosted back up because Tekken 4 was lacking on that as well. Really nothing to complain about. I'm not a huge fighting game guy though, so this one's going to be a B. Okay. Star Wars Battlefront. First Battlefront, fantastic game, obviously. It was really cool to have a Star Wars game where you can actually like play out the movies, like the battles, on the different planets, playing on like like basically reenacting the movie. That's what this game was about, it was really cool. You had both the split screen as well as online multiplayer options. You could also just play through a campaign. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, you can't go wrong with Battlefront. Battlefront 2 definitely upped the ante. That's definitely the one you want to play, in my opinion. But you can't go wrong with the original for sure. It's great. This one's gonna have to be a B for sure. We'll put it about right there, I guess. Perfect. Okay, we got Flat Out. Now, this was another really cool racing game. This is one that people don't really consider. It's kind of a ripoff of Burnout, but not really at the same time. Like it has like it has a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences too. Because one of the main things was this was dirt racing instead of racing on like normal roads. So you're thinking like you're racing like in trucks and these dirt cars and things like that instead of like a normal race car. And the destruction was actually really cool. Arguably, the destruction was better in this game than it was in Burnout in terms of like the actual physics and stuff like that. A lot of cool mini games too. It might be a little controversial, but I'm probably gonna make this one a B also. I don't know. I'm gonna put it like right up there with Burnout. I enjoy both these games pretty equally. Like if you ever played Flat Out, it's actually a lot of fun. World of Warcraft. Damn. Okay. I will have to say, I'm rating this game based on how I felt about it during that time. Nowadays, my rating would be very different. But for that time, this game would be an A. This game was very much consuming my time. I spent a ton of time in the World of Warcraft, more than I'd like to discuss. I played this game almost nonstop for months after it came out. Because I was originally a fan of MMO games first with EverQuest, played that for a bit. Um, and then it picked up with Final Fantasy 11. I played that for several months. Actually had to stop playing it because I couldn't pay the monthly thing anymore. And I guess I somehow was able to play for like a few months after I stopped paying. And then they sent me to collections over that. So yeah, it wasn't the best time for me. I wasn't making the kind of money back then either. Things were very different. But WoW was definitely above those for sure. It consumed me even more. And so it's an A for that. Nowadays, I'd have to probably give it an F because I absolutely hate that aspect. But this was a very different time, and I did enjoy my time with WoW quite a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, I if you know, you know. That's all I gotta say. Okay, GTA San Andreas. That is an easy A. Also, um, it's tough. It's tough. I'm just gonna toss it there. It's gonna be the goats, guys, of 2004. I mean, what can you really say about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas that hasn't already been said? I mean, this game just transcended everything at that time. Like, this was something I was even more hyped up for than Halo 2, as much as I like the original Halo, because it was Grand Theft Auto. You know, I was like one of those weird people. I got my PlayStation 2 in like May of 2001, and everybody else at that time was like all hyped up about, ooh, Metal Gear Solid 2, ooh, Devil May Cry, ooh, Final Fantasy 10, which I was excited about that one too, but I just knew in my heart GTA 3 from when I saw the previews in the magazines and online, everything like that. It seemed like the regular gaming public wasn't paying attention to it, but I just knew it was gonna be such a huge game, and it was. And it just got bigger with Vice City, and San Andreas was like the culmination of that, with how they were able to really push the PlayStation 2 to its limits, not graphics wise. The graphics were still kind of compared to a lot of games on the PS2, but that wasn't that important. It was about the gameplay. It was about them having a fully realized open world. They got rid of the loading times entirely. None of this, oh, you go to a different island and you have to wait there several seconds for that segment to load. No, everything was on the fly, like even entering in like a lot of the buildings. Some of the buildings still had loading times from what I remember, I think. But like a lot of them you could just enter right in, like it was insane. Um, the amount of activities and everything like that. Of course, they did improve some of the gameplay mechanics because, that was if there's something you complain about the old games, the gameplay mechanics were pretty antiquated. This wasn't like the best in that regard. There were some games in the genre that did work a little bit better for that era, but like just the full package of San Andreas, the soundtrack, you name it. This game was the bee's knees, right? It was the tits. It was however you want to say it. This was the game of the year without a doubt. Okay. Killzone. Killzone, the old Halo killer right here. The Halo killer from Sony. Now, this game was pretty impressive for its time. Definitely one of the best looking PS2 games. Having that full online multiplayer, definitely a big selling point. And unlike Xbox, you didn't have to pay for the online multiplayer. The game was It was Like it was decent, There's nothing wrong with it. Obviously, if you didn't have an original Xbox and you wanted a multiplayer shooter, you can't go wrong. You'd have a decent time with it, it'd be fun. But it just wasn't it at the same time. It's definitely a C tier game. Now, the Killzone games got better as time went on. It was a decent showing the first one, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't a Halo killer as they claimed. That was literally like one of the taglines for the game. Okay, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Ooh, man, jeez. This one's a killer game. Killer game. It's very tough to put it in the B tier because it's awesome. The only reason it's going in the B tier is because it does have a lot of bugs and glitches and things like that. It does have a little bit of wonkiness, but in terms of like just a role playing experience, it's definitely A tier if you're into like games that let you do some serious role playing with all the different vampire styles that you can choose from the different clans. They all have their own abilities and things like that, different play styles. You can get so much out of this game. And there are like nowadays fan patches that will fix a lot of the issues and, kind of bump things up for a more modern time. But I'm just ranking the game based on how it was back in that time. But you can't go wrong with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It is PC only. Of course, there was the sequel that recently came out, and you don't hear about it for a good reason. But this one people still talk about for good reason. Okay, Spider Man 2, the game based on the movie. Can't go wrong, man. This is a very solid year. There's not much on this list. Obviously, some of these games that they have here, definitely, yeah. But yeah, Spider-Man 2, fantastic. Can't go wrong with it. One of the best movie games of that era, obviously. Just fantastic gameplay. Obviously, the web slinging and stuff like that, it's antiquated, it's dated by today's standards, compared to the new games, but it was great for that time. Great open world mechanics, you know, graphics are great, it followed the movie pretty good. You can't go wrong with Spider Man 2. I'll bump that up to about there, I think. Okay. Fable, another one right here. This should have been a game. It definitely would have been if it was exactly what Peter Molyneux had promised. I enjoyed it a lot. The gameplay was great. It was cool being able to make your own character. That was all really good stuff. It definitely was a top-notch game, and the original Xbox didn't get a lot of RPG style games, so it really needed a real win with the Fable game. But I mean, let's at the same time, it's not that great of a game because it didn't live up to a lot of the promises that they made. It is a fun game. It's definitely very enjoyable to play, but it was not what they promised either. So it was disappointing in that regard. That's why I have to kind of put it as a B. Um, but that being said, it is pretty good. It's definitely my favorite of the Fable games because like it got even weirder with the later ones. But it's just disappointing that it wasn't what they set out to be because what it ultimately ended up being was basically like Zelda, but you can like do various things that you can't do in Zelda, like customize your character and get, buy buildings and like weird crap like that, which, it doesn't affect the gameplay all that much. It's still fun. I still enjoyed it a lot. Thief Deadly Shadows. This was a pretty cool game right here. This is the first Thief game I had personally played. And this is another one of my favorites in the stealth genre. Um, I do prefer, as far as Splinter Cell is concerned, I do prefer Chaos Theory over this game, but I prefer this game over Pandora Tomorrow in terms of the mechanics. I thought it was really cool having that medieval setting. You had the different arrow types that you could use, like to extinguish the flames and things like that. Being able to sneak around the enemies, do those little executions and things like that. I enjoyed Thief quite a bit, and it's been too long since I played it. I definitely need to revisit that. Okay. Uh, Prince of Persia Warrior Within. Ooh, this one's going to be a little controversial. Very controversial, because there's a lot of people, as far as the Prince of Persia games are concerned, this is their favorite one. And I have no fucking clue why. This is a D tier game, guys. This one's a D. Let me explain. Okay, so it does make some improvements over Sands of Time, namely with the combat mechanics. They are better in this game than they were in Sands of Time. That's basically it. That's the only improvement with the game. The story, kind of garbage. For some reason, we have like Godsmack or some shit like that for the music. That doesn't make any sense at all. He becomes like real edgy and shit like that. Like they're trying to rip off like Dante from Devil May Cry. I don't get it. You know, like there's just so much wrong with this game. You know, and it sucks because like Sands of Time, like if I was doing a 2003 tier list when that game came out, that would have been an A. Sands of Time is an A. If I did a 2003 tier list of this, you know, of games from 2003, but this was not it. It was such a letdown. And then we've got Ninja Gaiden. Good old Ninja Gaiden, the original Xbox action feast. Such a brutal game. So beautiful. So, oh man, it plays so well, but it is so brutal at the same time. Arguably the pinnacle of Xbox in terms of like technical achievement. And just so, I mean, this is a very dedicated kind of game. This is definitely a B. I don't think I'd rank it that high, but I'm definitely gonna rank it around here. I think it is so enjoyable to play, but it is so demanding of the player at the same time. Like this is not a game you can casually just play. Like, oh, I'm just gonna hop on and play like a half hour of Ninja Gaiden. No, 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 no. That's not how this works with Ninja Gaiden. You gotta lock in, you know. You gotta put in some time. You know, maybe you'll get to the next level after you spend a couple of hours getting your ass handed to you. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. You know, there's a reason why people still go back to these games, you know. And yeah. So that's my tier list of the ones I've played. There's a bunch I have not played. I have played some of these games in some certain genres of it. Obviously, I played Super Mario 64, for example. Duh. But I just never played the DS version, so it didn't feel appropriate to rank that. I did play the original Pikmin. I played several Paper Mario games. I never played Thousand Year Door. I should obviously get to it because I have it on the Switch. I played the original Metroid Prime. I played Metroid Prime 4. I never played 2, except for the demo, but I don't think that counts. So I'm not into Pokemon games. I played like the first Onimusha. I didn't play any of their ones, even though I loved the first Onimusha. So obviously I played Hitman, like Hitman 2. Great game. Never played, I think this one's Contracts, or yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's Contracts. So I think the Blood Money or whatever was the one after that. Played the original Metroid. Never played the remake on the GBA. You know, obviously I got a lot of homework to do, but that's my tier list of the ones that I have played. You guys can let me know what you think. I'm going to put the link, of course, in the description if you want to do the tier list for yourself. But yeah, that's all I've got time for. Thank you very much for stopping in. And if you want to be a member to see these videos before the general audience, be sure to check that out. But that's going to be the last line.